chapter deals with the fact that after Israel turned away from Elohim, they turned to their prosperous economy for their salvation. They tried to increase the production of their land. Their prosperity blinded them to their emptiness that they actually had and blinded them to their sins. And Elohim is going to judge them for their harlotry. Let's look at verse 1 of Hosea 9. We read, "Do not reject, O Israel, with exultation like the nations, for you played the harlot, forsaking your Elohim. You've loved harlots' earnings on every threshing floor." Well, he's saying don't rejoice in your prosperity like all the other nations do. Israel has sinned against Elohim. They've ignored his ways. And he says they're being whores, and he's had about all he's going to put up with. Now, they had an abundance of food. They had plenty of wine. They had all the luxuries that life had to offer back then. And Elohim had given them their prosperity. And they used their prosperity as a means to forget about him. And he's going to judge them for that. And that's what that means on that last sentence. You have loved harlots' earnings on every threshing floor. They've turned to paganism and prosperity for their delights. Verse 2, "Threshing floor and wine press will not feed them, and the new wine will fail them." Well, their wealth is going to turn into want. They're going to lose everything. Elohim is going to judge Israel. Verse 3, "They'll not remain in Yahweh's land, but Ephraim will return to Egypt, and in Assyria they will eat unclean food." Now, Ephraim is going to be expelled from the land. They're going to go back into captivity in a very similar way they went into captivity in Egypt. Only this time the captivity will be in Assyria. And we read about that in 2 Kings, starting at verse 17, starting at verse 6. "In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and carried Israel away into exile to Assyria, and settled them in Hala and Habor, on the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. Now this came about because the sons of Israel had sinned against Yahweh their Elohim, who had brought them up from the land of Egypt, and from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and they had feared other gods, and walked in the customs of the nations whom Yahweh had driven out before the sons of Israel, and in the customs of the kings of Israel, which they had introduced. And the sons of Israel did things secretly which were not right against Yahweh their Elohim. Moreover, they built for themselves high places in all their towns, from watchtower to fortified city. And they set for themselves sacred pillars and asherim on every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burned incense on all the high places, as the nations did, which Yahweh had carried away to exile before them. And they did evil things, provoking Yahweh. And they served idols, concerning which Yahweh had said to them, "You shall not do this thing." Yet Yahweh warned Israel and Judah through all his prophets and every seer, saying, "Turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments, my statutes, according to all the Torah which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you through my servants the prophets." However, they did not listen, but stiffened their neck like their fathers, who did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant which he made with their fathers, and his warnings with which he warned them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after nations which surrounded them, concerning which Yahweh had commanded them not to do like them. And they forsook all the commandments of Yahweh their Elohim, and made for themselves molten images, even 2 calves, and made an Asherah, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. Then they made their sons and their daughters pass through the fire, and practiced divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, provoking him. So Yahweh was very angry with Israel, and removed them from his sight. None was left except the tribe of Judah. Well, Elohim is saying that they had been enjoying this sin that they'd been involved with all these years that they'd been turning away from him. Over time, they were sinning more, and they were enjoying it less. They were now going to have the opportunity to be forced into sin by having unclean food shoved down their mouths. If they're going to break the law, he's going to force them into it even more. they're literally going to have sin shoved down their throats by eating unclean things. Let's look at verse 4 of Hosea 9. They will not pour out libations of wine to Yahweh. Their sacrifices will not please him. Their bread will be like mourner's bread. All who eat of it will be defiled, for the bread will be for themselves alone. It will not enter the house of Yahweh. They're going to attempt to give offerings and libations to Elohim, but they do not even do it in the place that he designates. They stay up there in the northern kingdom, and the temple is down there in the southern kingdom of Judah. They don't even go to the right place. They're going to attempt to do these offerings and libations, but they're going to do it their way. They're not going to do it Elohim's way. None of these offerings accompanied repentance, and he wants no part of it. They're not going to have the luxury of giving out of abundance anymore. They will struggle just to survive. Verse 5. What will you do on the day of the appointed festival and on the day of the feast of Yahweh? No more celebrations. No more feast days. They're going to be held captive in foreign nations. Verse 6, for behold, they will go because of destruction. Egypt will gather them up. Memphis will bury them. Weeds will take over their treasures of silver. Thorns will be in their tents. The feast days are going to disappear. They're not going to be able to celebrate them in foreign lands. It's not going to be possible. Weeds are going to take possession of their silver. They're going to sleep in thorns. Their captivity is going to be a misery, a complete misery. The reference here to Egypt, that's to remind them how horrible it's going to be. Verse 7, the days of punishment have come. The days of retribution have come. Let Israel know this. The prophet is a fool. The inspired man is demented. Because of the grossness of your iniquity, and because your hostility is so great. Israel is going to be punished. Now the prophet is going to be the fool. They're alleged inspired men that they have. They're going to be idiots. Jeremiah gave a similar warning to the southern kingdom of Judah. We read about that in Jeremiah 23, starting at verse 16. Thus says the Yahweh of hosts, do not listen to the words of the prophets who are prophesying to you. They are leading you into futility. They speak a vision of their own imagination, not from the mouth of Yahweh. You keep saying to those who despise me, Yahweh has said, you will have peace. And as for everyone who walks in the stubbornness of his own heart, they say, calamity will not come upon you. But who has stood in the counsel of Yahweh, that he should see and hear his word? Who has given heed to his word and listened? Behold, the storm of Yahweh has gone forth in wrath, even a whirling tempest. It will swirl down on the head of the wicked. Also, Lamentations 2, verse 14. Your prophets have seen for you false and foolish visions. They have not exposed your iniquity so as to restore you from captivity. But they've seen for you false and misleading oracles. See, we got a lot of that, if I say so myself today also. A lot of false and misleading oracles, a lot of false hopes. I've had people ask me, so do you think Islam is they could defeat us? Well, I tell them, no, it's not that they could, they will. And there's not a darn thing we can do about it. Yeah, but what if we elect Trump? What if we get Cruz in office? It doesn't matter.
At least we got a better chance.
Well, yeah, things may linger longer, but we may be a little happier in our misery. But we're not going to, it's already been written. Okay, I don't know about the United States in particular, but pretty much the whole world. You should have said if those days weren't shortened, nobody'd survive. Okay, nobody. And I very, very, very easily see how that's the case now. That is the case now. I mean, we have people more willing to kill us than we want to live. I mean, that's just how it appears there. Islam is going to be it, or you get conquered and killed. So that's what Scripture says. It's very plain. And to say, well, don't worry about it. We need to, we need to do this and we need to do that. Your prophets have seen for you false and foolish visions. We can't, it's not okay. Okay? It's not okay. Somebody give me a reason why the United States is so special that Elohim should save us. Anybody have a reason? Is it maybe because of some good TV shows or something? Anything?
Well, we've got a lot of love and do gay marriage.
Yeah, we do gay marriage now. There you go. There's a good reason. We abort a lot of babies. We ignore his Torah. How many people really even care what his Torah says?
A lot of them don't even know what Torah is.
They don't even know what Torah is, right? Don't know what the term means. I'd say that's the majority of people.
They live under grace.
Yeah, they live under grace. Well, you know what? That candle's burned down to the nub. That grace candle has. But what have we turned to? We don't need Elohim as a society. What do we turn to? Our prosperity. Just like Israel did. And our fake gods. Okay, that's who we rely on. This isn't just us, or just them. I mean, it's us. I look at it, I see a reflection of our whole culture in here. Verse 8, Ephraim was a watchman with my Elohim, a prophet, yet the snare of a bird catcher is in all his ways. And there's only hostility in the house of his Elohim. Ephraim used to be a watchman and a prophet for Elohim. But now he's a false prophet that snares people with lies. The priests weren't telling the word of Elohim, but they were telling people what they want to hear. Elohim has nothing but hostility for them, just hostility. Boy, we got a great big election year right now. Everybody's hearing what they want to hear. All you got to do is go to the right channel, and you'll hear what you want to hear. And what's any of it worth? Verse 9, they've gone deep in depravity as in the days of Gibeah. He'll remember their iniquity. He will punish their sins. Well, the evil of Ephraim in Hosea's day is being compared to the days of Gibeah. Now, we're not going to go there right now, but that's in Judges 19 through 21, those 3 chapters. In that incident, a Levite had a concubine who was unfaithful to him. He left her to Gibeah, and there the men of Gibeah wanted to have sexual relations with the Levite. But instead, the Levite gave them his concubine and said, here. The concubine later died from the massive things that happened to her. The Levite cut her in pieces and had the pieces sent to the other tribes of Israel. It caused a war in Israel, and because of this, the tribe of Benjamin was almost annihilated. One little incident with one little Levite and his concubine. Verse 10 of Hosea 9. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your forefathers as the earliest fruit on the fig tree in its first season. But they came to Baal Peor and devoted themselves to shame, and they became as detestable as that which they loved. Initially, Elohim found Israel, they were like grapes in the wilderness. They were called the first fruits of the fig tree. They were a delight. They were refreshing. But they real quickly turned sour. They turned to immorality at Baal Peor. That's in Numbers 25, the first 9 verses. Let's just take a look at that. While Israel remained at Shittim, the people began to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab. There's that mixing again. The mixing of believers and unbelievers, it is such a tremendous sin that we tend to not think that much about. Elohim hates that. He says, when that happens, I will quickly destroy you. Verse 2, for they invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel joined themselves to Baal of Peor, and Yahweh was angry against Israel. And Yahweh said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and execute them in broad daylight before Yahweh, so that the fierce anger of Yahweh may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to the judges of Israel, each of you slay his men who have joined themselves to Baal of Peor. Then behold, one of the sons of Israel came and brought to his relatives a Midianite woman. In the sight of Moses, and in the sight of all the congregation of the sons of Israel, while they were weeping at the doorway of the tent of meeting. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he arose from the midst of the congregation, took a spear in his hand, and went after the man of Israel into the tent, and pierced both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through the body. So the plague of the sons of Israel was checked. And those who died by the plague were 24,000. He said that's what Israel's doing. Verse 11, as for Ephraim, their glory will fly away like a bird. No birth, no pregnancy, no conception. Israel's glory is going to fly away like a bird that's scared off. Their glory is going to quickly fade away. It's only going to be a memory. No birth, no pregnancy, no conception. There will not be any starting over for this group. They're going to be thoroughly judged. Verse 12. Though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them until not a man is left. Yes, woe to them indeed when I depart from them. Now, Abraham was greatly blessed with the beautiful and prosperous land. Israel is going to lose these things. They're not going to be prosperous anymore, going to lose that prosperity. They're not going to hear children anymore, the way like they used to. Verse 13, Ephraim, as I have seen, is planted in a pleasant meadow like Tyre, but Ephraim will bring out his children for slaughter. The city of Tyre was the most prosperous place in the world for what it was, but it was a false prosperity. But all trade into the Mediterranean went through Tyre. The king of Tyre was very wealthy. Well, Elohim ended up judging the city of Tyre also. And the city of Tyre is still judged to this day, by the way. Yeah.
Bring out his children for slaughter? What exactly that mean? They bring them out to somebody slaughter them?
Israel's rejection of Elohim is causing her children to be judged. That's what that means. Even the little ones will suffer due to the sin of the parents. You know, children aren't supposed to suffer for the sins of the parents, but when the parents see to it that the children commit the same sins, that's what happens. And all you have to do is have them participate in the same things you're doing. In 2 Kings 15, starting at verse 14, we read, Then Menahem, son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah and came to Samaria and struck Shallum, son of Jabesh, in Samaria and killed him and became king in his place. Now the rest of the acts of Shallum and his conspiracy which he made, behold, they're written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Then Menahem struck Tifsah, and all who were in it, and its borders from Tirzah, because they did not open to him. Therefore he struck it and ripped up all its women who were with child. You know, the thought I've heard from some is that, okay, Elohim, they say, God, why didn't he just leave us alone? Okay, why does he have to judge us? Why don't he just leave us alone? Okay, here you are. He'll leave you alone. And here's your 20 million Muslims that are going to destroy you. There, okay, you're left alone. Hope you're happy. See you later. See, it's only through Elohim that we have anything whatsoever. It's only through his blessings. What he asks is the same thing that any parent asks of their child. Look, I have a few rules for you. All right? You're not going to stay out all night. Keep your room somewhat clean. Take out the garbage. That's essentially all he's asked of us, is that type of thing. And what do? I'm not doing that. Forget that. Forget that. He says rest one day a week that he designates. He says to have parties a few times a year that are on his appointed times. He says don't eat poison. And what do we tell him? Well, I'm not going to do that. Are you crazy? I'm not under the law. There you go. Yeah, he should. You think Elohim's going to feel sad? No. No. That's what we do. He's given us plenty of time. He's given us nothing but love and prosperity. You know what? And we are, pardon the expression, we're just giving him the finger as to what he says to do. Is that what we want? That's not what a remnant wants. He just doesn't ask that much. Give them, O Yahweh, what will you give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. The women are going to be barren. They're not going to be fruitful like they once were. Verse 15, all their evil is at Gilgal. Indeed, I came to hate them there because of the wickedness of their deeds. I'll drive them out of my house. I will love them no more. All their princes are rebels. Gilgal is one of the cities in the northern kingdom where they would go worship. They would engage in horrible idolatry there. Verse 16, Ephraim is stricken. Their root is dried up. They'll bear no fruit, even though they bear children. I'll slay the precious ones of their womb. Elohim's judgment is going to come upon the fruit of the ground and upon the fruit of the womb. It's an atrocious judgment that Israel brought upon themselves. Verse 17, my Elohim will cast them away because they've not listened to him. And they'll be wanderers among the nations. Elohim is going to judge them in their prosperity. And it was devastation for Ephraim. It was a terrible time, and they are just now recovering 2,700 years later. Just now recovering. The fact that they retained their identity and have returned to that land is sure evidence that Elohim's word is faithful. Now this next chapter, chapter 10, it's going to tell us more of the judgment that's going to come upon Israel. Verse 1, Israel is a luxuriant vine. He produces fruit for himself. The more his fruit, the more altars he made. The richer his land, the better he made the sacred pillars. Hosea is not saying that Israel is not producing fruit. He's saying that all the fruit they produce is for themselves. Once again, it's that prosperity. They took that prosperity and they used it themselves for their own pleasure. They used their prosperity to increase their sin. The more money they had, the bigger they built their idols. They took what Elohim gave them and used it for their false gods. They didn't use their wealth to glorify Elohim, but to increase in sin. What if you have a married couple and you have one that loves the other greatly and provides for him or her everything they want, and then that spouse takes what the one spouse gives them and gives it to their lover? That's what they're doing. Gives it to their lover. Is there I was just reading this the other night. Is there a bigger insult to say a man than that? You know what the term cuckold means? You can Google it. Mankind thinks they can cuckold the Creator. It's a huge insult. But that's what they're doing. That's what happens with this paganism. That's why we need to be so distant from it. I mean, if it walks like a pagan and quacks like a pagan, get the heck away from it. Don't need it.
Well, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I know. They're everywhere. That's why we meet.
We live in a pagan nation.
We live in a pagan nation that's in a pagan state, that's in a pagan city, in our pagan neighborhoods. Well, this place. We try and keep the pagan out of here. We keep it out of our houses. Keep it out of our workplace as much as possible. Keep it away from our kids as best we can. Yeah.
Well, there's a snare everywhere you get.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. That's why we've got to get the heck away from it as much as we can. You know, Hosea 10 verse 2 was raptured. So let me read it to you. Of course, if anyone's watching online, there's not a screen with it on there anyway, so I'll read it. Their heart is faithless. Now they must bear their guilt. Yahweh will break down their altars and destroy their sacred pillars. Their heart is faithless. Now, in the King James, it says their heart is divided. And I could see a case for both. They would want Elohim and his blessings and still worship false gods. Elohim says he doesn't want a divided heart. A divided heart, he doesn't, no. No. James 1 verse 8, being a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. James 4 verse 4 says, you adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward Elohim? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of Elohim. Now, a lot of people look at that and say, oh, I kind of like football games and I kind of like shopping or whatever. That's not what this is saying. Do you like this world to the extent that you would break the Sabbath? Would you do you like the things in this world so much that they mean more to you than the rest of his ways? Well, pork was on sale. Pork chops were on sale. Got to save them dollars, right? Yeah.
Do not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God. So in other words, if you're friends with pagans,
No. Well, that's not what it's saying. Well, I'm trying to explain to you what this means. It means, do the things of the world mean so much to you that you will not follow the things of Elohim? Okay? 1 John 2:15, do not love the world nor the things in this world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Revelation 3, verses 15 and 16, I know your deeds, that you're neither cold nor hot. I would that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Can't be double-minded. Can't be double-minded. 1 Kings 18, verse 21, and Elijah came near to all the people and said, how long will you hesitate between two opinions? If Yahweh is Elohim, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. But the people did not answer him a word. 2 Kings 17, verse 41. So while these nations feared Yahweh, they also served their idols. Their children likewise and their grandchildren, as their fathers did, so they do to this day. And so they feared Elohim. I'd say not near enough. Isaiah 29, verses 13 and 14. Then Adonai said, because this people draw near with their words and honor me with their lip service, but they remove their hearts far from me, and their reverence for me consists of tradition learned by rote. Therefore, behold, I will once again deal marvelously with this people, wondrously marvelous. And the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the discernment of their discerning men shall be concealed. Let's go back to Hosea 10. Verse 3 says, surely now they will say, we have no king. for we do not revere Yahweh. As for the king, what can he do for us? They never had a king in the northern kingdom that was worth anything. Not a one. They all stunk. But the people themselves, they did not revere Elohim. The kings they had spoke foolishly. Verse 4, they speak mere words with worthless oaths. They make covenants, and judgment sprouts like poisonous weeds in the furrows of the field. They spoke mere words. See, the Israelites and their leaders, they were full of words. But they were empty. They were meaningless. They spoke eloquently and empty. Lofty garbage. No content. Turn on your TV and watch the political debates. And have that, print up this passage and put it underneath the TV. And then take a drink of beer every time you see that and see how long before you pass out. 10 minutes, if you're lucky. It's terrible. With worthless oaths, they make covenants. You know, swearing to the truth doesn't mean anything at all. This is why Yeshua said, well, you don't just say yes or no. That should mean the same thing as you swearing. How many times have you heard people say, I swear to God? And then when I hear that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't believe you. Anyone who can just drop that term like that and use it, to me, whatever they say is likely meaningless. Well, let's look at verse 5. The inhabitants of Samaria will fear for the calf of Beth-aven. Indeed, its people will mourn for it, and its idolatrous priests will cry out over its glory, since it has departed from it. Beth-aven. Now, Beth-el means what in Hebrew? House of Elohim. Beth is house. That's Bet Yeshua, Torah assembly. Now, Beth-aven. Aven means wickedness. He said your Beth-el is actually Beth-aven. Bethel had one golden calf that was worshipped, and Samaria had the other. They had the golden calf competition. Which church could draw the more people? One was out trying to outdo the other in size or importance of the golden calves. That's apparently what was happening here. They took the abundance that Elohim had blessed them with and used it to build bigger and better golden calves. Verse 6, the thing itself will be carried to Assyria as tribute to King Jerob. Ephraim will be seized with shame, and Israel will be shamed of its own counsel. They're going to carry their own golden calves as a present to this Assyrian king. There's a lot of gold in those calves. The king of Assyria was not named Jerob. His name was King Shalmaneser. Hosea called him that because Jerob means the contentious one. King Hosea of Israel went to the Assyrian king and didn't bring a gift. Because of this, Shalmaneser took him captive. Look in 2 Kings 17, verses 4 through 6. But the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hosea, who had sent messengers. So king of Egypt, and had offered no tribute to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. So the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded the whole land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and carried Israel away into exile to Assyria, settled them in Halor and Habor and on the river of Gozan in the cities of the Medes. See, their advisors didn't give them real good advice. Verse 7, Samaria will be cut off with her king like a stick on the surface of the water. The imagery here is very insightful. The king of Israel is going to totally lose significance. The lineage of the king will be cut off, be totally worthless, a stick floating in the water. Verse 8, also the high places of Avon, the sin of Israel, will be destroyed. Thorn and thistle will grow on their altars. Then they will say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. The judgment's going to be terrible. They're going to cry for the mountains to fall on them. It will be that terrible. You know, that same judgment is going to happen when Messiah returns. We're told in Revelation 6, starting at verse 15, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders of the rich and the strong and every slave and free man hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? That's when he returns. That's what's going to happen. How does that happen in Revelation 6 when there's 22 chapters? Well, easy. It's described several times in Revelation. Revelation looks at certain situations in the world with certain kingdoms and describes that kingdom and how it's going to be until the end in his return. Then he looks at another kingdom and talks about their rise and their fall and what it's going to be like when Messiah returns. And then he's going to take another kingdom and do the same thing, and then another one and do the same thing. So his return is described several times in the book of Revelation. I've read a lot of commentaries that try to say that this isn't his return because there's too much time left and whatever. They don't understand Revelation. Revelation's very easy to understand. And that's what it'll be like for the kings of the earth. Verse 9 of Hosea 10, from the days of Gibeah you've sinned, O Israel, there they stand. Will not the battle against the sons of iniquity overtake them in Gibeah? The days of Gibeah, they're again referred to that horrible event that was mentioned in Judges 19 through 21. It was a time of cruel sex and violence. And that horrible act of that group of men led to the near extinction of the tribe of Benjamin. The idolatry of Israel led to gross sexual sins that continued until the time of Hosea. Verse 10, when it is my desire, I will chastise them, and the peoples will be gathered against them when they are bound for their double guilt. Their two transgressions, or double guilt, is probably referring to idolatry and adultery. The two are the same thing in Scripture in many ways, but they were doing them both. Elohim says he'll punish them when the proper time comes. Verse 11, and Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thresh. But I'll come over her fair neck with a yoke. I'll harness Ephraim. Judah will plow. Jacob will harrow for himself. Ephraim is like a heifer that loves to reap the harvest. You see, reaping the harvest, that is the fun part. You gather your rewards. That's the fun thing. But Elohim says he's going to put a yoke around their neck, and they're going to do plowing now. They're going to break up the clods of the ground instead of gathering from the fruits of the harvest. Verse 12, sow with a view to righteousness, reap in accordance with kindness. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek Yahweh until he comes to rain righteousness on you. You know, this is a principle that runs throughout the word of Elohim. Galatians 6, verses 7 and 8, do not be deceived, Elohim is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, this he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh shall from the flesh reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit shall from the Spirit reap eternal life. We reap what we sow. That's a fact of life. Now, I never really quite got this, how you sow to the Spirit. Okay? How do you do that? How do you sow to the Spirit? Be obedient to his Torah. Yeah, it's your works. It's what you do. That's all it is. If you sow to your own flesh, do what's right in your own eyes. From the flesh, you will reap corruption. The Torah, looking at the Torah makes Scripture so easy to understand. That's so simple. You'd ask me 25 years ago, I couldn't tell you how to do that. I had no idea. Sword of the Spirit. Why, I pray a lot. Do I need to start giving money? I hope not. But I will if I have to. Well, kind of for a while anyway. I didn't know. Verse 13 of Hosea 10, you have plowed wickedness, you have reaped injustice. You have eaten the fruit of lies because you've trusted in your way, in your numerous warriors. Israel's plowed wickedness. Now they're going to reap iniquity. They trusted in their leaders who lied to them instead of listening to the word of Elohim. They trusted their way instead of Elohim's way. Now they're going to pay for their folly. We read in Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 8. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and turn away from evil. It'll be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Verse 14 of Hosea 10, therefore a tumult will rise among your people, and all your fortresses will be destroyed. As Shalman destroyed Beth Arbel in the days of battle, when mothers were dashed in pieces with their children. This particular battle is not easy to pinpoint in history. Shalman is apparently King Shalmaneser of Assyria. This passage tells us the Assyrians had a practice that the Babylonians and the Romans also used. They did it to totally demoralize their enemies that they would capture. The soldiers would take the babies of the people they'd captured. They would grab them by the feet and swing them and dash their heads against rocks. That's what they would do to demoralize those they've defeated. Then they would apparently do this to the mothers also. Verse 15. Thus it will be done to you at Bethel because of your great wickedness. At dawn the king of Israel will be completely cut off. The Assyrians came, and overnight the Israelites were taken captive to Assyria and to a life of slavery. And it was over. Any questions, any thoughts on Hosea 9 and 10? Just such pleasant little chapters, aren't they? Just good pats on the back and sunshine and unicorn juice. I'll tell you, but we get enough sunshine and unicorn juice. You know, we've got to be told the facts.